This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, good morning, good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right. So let's get started. So today's agenda is basically to discuss approach for whether you are an IT professional or you are a non-IT professional. How should you approach the road to becoming a business analyst? What are the things which you need to look at, and how should you go about in a step-by-step manner? So before we start, just a little bit about Tech Canvas. So Tech Canvas is an IIBA Canada and ISQI Germany training partners, and through them we offer business analyst courses, including Agile and General Business Analysis certification. So the first thing first, uh, you must be coming from different backgrounds. So just give me a sense of what is your background right now. Okay, so uh, look at the options which I have written on the slide. Pick up one of them and just type in the chat window so that I can get an idea as to what is your background. Yeah, so I'm getting the answers. Okay, so there are people from testing, development, non-IT, sales, network support, sales, implementation, operations, non-IT, sales, travel, sales and marketing, testing. Fair enough. So typically, the people who are interested and who should be interested in becoming a business analyst can come from any background. Just like what I'm seeing right now is the same kind of configuration which I see in my batches. Almost 50% are people who are coming from non-IT background, and remaining 50% come from testing, development, and support, those kind of background. Very few people come from development background. There are people who come from development background, but for development background, people who come with programming background, they have more options in the IT industry to move forward. They can get into programming related to data science and several other areas. But for everybody else, business analyst is probably the most lucrative and most promising domain in the IT industry. Okay. So now we'll try and understand a few things about business analysis, what it is, what is the role of a business analyst, what do you need as skills to become a business. As far as I'm concerned, I've spent close to now, this is 26th year in the industry. I worked for several years in the IT industry in multiple roles, right from developer to business analyst to project manager to very senior project management. And now I am more in the fields of business analysis, agile, and business analytics. And most of my time is spent on teaching as well as writing about business analysis. So, what's the agenda for today? So, we are going to look at who is a business analyst, what are the skills, why do we need a business analyst? Now, this is important to understand because that will also give you an idea as to what is the future of a business analyst. If the industry needs it, that means there is a good future for the business analyst. And then we'll see a step by step approach. How should you try and become a business analyst? So let's look at the role of a business analyst. Now, this is a very simple diagram to understand that a business analyst works in between a customer and an IT company. Even though a business analyst is part of the IT company, but their role involves being a neutral entry or entity in the software project. So what do they do? They talk to the customer to understand what does the customer want in terms of software. What is their requirement? So let's say, for example, they say, I want people to come to our website, register and make a purchase. That's the way customer tells you what do they want. But then that is not good enough for a developer to create a software, right? Software need the developers need more information, more details about how things work. That is the responsibility of a business analyst to discuss with the customer so that the requirements can be detailed out in a format which the developers can use to develop the software. Okay. Once the software is ready, then the business analyst validates it, checks it whether it is the same which the customer was looking for. And then it goes to the customer for testing. During this entire cycle, business analyst is the interface between the business, that is the customer, and the development team. So, what does the role involve? As you can see, coding is not a business analyst requirement. Interfacing with the customer and the development team, pretty much the most important part of your job. Working with requirements, part of your job. Testing, part of a business analyst job. But very clearly, there is no coding required in the role of a business analyst in the IT industry. Now, so what are the skills you need in order to perform these responses? So, in order to work with the requirements, what do you need? You need to know how to gather requirements. These are called requirements elicitation techniques. You also need to know how to create diagrams. Diagrams in the sense process diagrams, flowcharts, how to create prototypes. These are known as visual modeling. One of the techniques which you need to learn is called UML. Then you need to know how to write the requirements in the form of a BRD or SRS. Then you also need to know how do we manage the changes in the requirement. Because as you know, changes are something which is quite common these days. In every software project, a lot of changes happen. So how do you manage that? These are four things which are required as far as working with requirement systems. What about working with customers as an interface? You need to have good presentation skills. You need to know how to negotiate. When I say negotiate, it's not about negotiating the pricing. It's about negotiating to agree which requirements to be done first. Because what happens is customers start telling you 10 things, but your team is limited. You cannot do all the 10 things. So what will you do? You say, okay, let's discuss what can we do first. So out of these 10, we can pick up 3 will do it first. That you should be in a position to negotiate. There are various things which comes into that, but ultimately it's all about negotiation. You need to be a good listener because whenever you are getting the requirements from the customer, you need to listen. You need to speak less, understand more. Then you need to know testing, how to define the acceptance criteria and how to conduct functional testing. These are the things which you need. So these are the skills which are required for you to become a business analyst. In the sense that first, these are the things which will be asked during the interview. Two, when you're doing the day-to-day work, you need to use most of these. So before we get into the plan, let's see why do we need a business analyst? Why everybody or a lot of people are interested in business analysis, right? This is one of the skills which is very, so to speak, hot in IT industry, apart from being a data scientist, right? A lot of people are getting into that. So why there is a sudden need? And to tell you, this need of a business analyst has started to pick up in the last 10 years. It's not that prior to this, there were no business analysts. I have done the role of business analyst for several years, but then during those times, project managers and project leaders used to double up as the management role as well as business analyst. So I used to generally go and discuss with the customers to get the requirements as well as manage the team, manage the development. Okay. But slowly industry started to understand that it is not going to work this way. Okay. So why that is? Let's try and understand it. First of all, let's look at this. This is my favorite diagram, so I always use this. This is an image where the person on the left is looking at a number on the ground. Person on the left sees it as 6. Person on the right sees it as 9. Who is right and who is wrong? None of them is wrong, right? Both of them are right. What is the problem? The problem is the way they are looking at it. The person on the left sees it from his or her perspective. So it is 6. Person on the right is looking from his perspective, which is 9. But what is the single most important value out of this? You can't make this out, whether it's you have to take it as 6 or you have to take it as 9. So then you need to have a situation where somebody can fill this gap of saying, for you it's 6, pretty good. For you it's 9. I will fill that gap between 6 and 9. So that there is no gap when the person on the left is telling the same thing to the person on the right. This is what exactly happens in software. When the customer says, I want every customer to register before they can make a purchase. The person on the right, who is a developer, can interpret registration in hundreds of ways. And if you leave it to the developer, they can create a screen which will just have name and email ID or something else, which is not what the customer wants. So this is the first very basic problem which industry faced. And then they looked at the data. So when you look at the data of software projects success from 1992 to 2017, 25 years, two bar charts. In 1992, the projects which were completed on time and within budget. In 1992, it was around 16%. In 2017, it became 29%. That means from 16% to 29%. That is, there is a growth. But if you look at the absolute number, it is still 29% of the projects were successful. Only 29%. Sorry. So only 29% projects succeeded, which is not a very good number. One third, even less than one third projects succeeded. How many projects were outright cancelled? 1992, the percentage was 31, which has still come down. Now it is around 19%, 2017. And how many projects were late and over budget? Almost the same, more than half. Now, this number is not very good if you compare it with any other industry. Look at the car industry. Look at any other industry. Look at airplanes. The failure rates are very, 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 very low, less than a percent. In fact, in airplanes, it's not even 0.00 something percent. So, billions of dollars are invested in IT companies, in IT projects, but the success rate has been not that good. So, why the success rate has not been good? That if you look at the data as to why, what are the top reasons as to projects are getting delayed or getting cancelled? If you look at the top three or four data, you see that one of these reasons, which is the second one, inaccurate requirements gathering. Close to 40% of the projects or 40% of the people are saying that projects were cancelled or failed because requirements were inaccurate or there was a change in the project object. So the frequent changes in the project and not gathering the requirements correctly have been primary sources of failure. Now, this data is from Project Management Institute of 2017, not very old data. So, this led to the understanding that we need to spend more focus on somebody or some role who can work with the customer on getting the requirements right and engaging them in the project so that even if there are changes, they can be managed better. That has led to the growth of the role of a business analyst. And as projects are becoming more and more complex, more data science projects, more data related projects are coming in, the need for somebody to focus more on the requirements is increasing at a rapid. So whether it's a data science project, it's a cloud computing project, or any kind of a project, you still need somebody who can understand the requirements and somebody who can engage the stakeholder. Okay, so it clearly means that the future as a business analyst is quite good and quite promising, provided you always focus on learning and upgrading yourself at a regular interval. It is not something where you learn something, become a business analyst, and then you are done. That period is over in the IT industry. Every 1 year or maybe every couple of years at the latest, you need to upgrade yourself. So you start, for example, you start as a business analyst. Maybe tomorrow you learn about agile business analysis or something different. But you need to keep upgrading yourself. So now let's come to step-by-step approach as to how we can target to become a business analyst. We'll take up questions in the end. All questions. You can type in the chat window. I'll answer all the questions. Okay. So the first thing is that you need to you come from different backgrounds. Like everybody is there's a variety of backgrounds from where you are coming. So now I have told you what are the skills which are needed to become a business owner. First step is to do an evaluation on gap. Which skills do you have? Which ones you don't have? Okay. For example, if somebody is coming from sales, obviously they have the knowledge of dealing with the customer because that's their strength. They talk to the customer, they understand their requirements. So that particular ability is already there. That's not a gap. It will take very little time for them to understand how to capture it. They must be doing it in some different. Somebody who is coming from testing background, they know how to conduct, how to write test cases. They know how to conduct functional tests. That skill is covered. That skill is covered. So you need to critically look at what are the skills which I discussed, which needs to be acquired. Where do you stand from that perspective? So you will have an inventory of items where you need to learn. Now you need to decide how do I get it? Do I start studying myself? Do I need to first research, understand it before I get into a training program? Or I don't need a training program, I can learn it online. There's absolutely no restriction anywhere. Okay? But you need to decide what works for you. Some people like to read books, some people like to watch videos, some people like to listen to audios, some people learn better if they attend a training program. So it's purely dependent on you as to how you can learn something. So decide that approach and then go for it. One of the things which you need to consider is going for a certificate. Now, why certification? Does it guarantee you a job? Does it does it ensure some very extraordinary ability to you? Answer is no. Why certifications are important and what is their role? First thing is that suppose there is an advertisement for a business analyst role in an organization. You know, multiple people apply for the same job. Now, employees receive the resume of let's say 20 people for one post. Now, you know there are several cases. I can tell you because I have been on the other side. There have been hundreds of cases where CVs don't reflect the skills of a candidate. Either it's false, or it's completely fudged, or it does not tell the real ability of the candidate. Now, how will an employer know what you know and what you don't know? How much of this is correct? How much of what you have written is incorrect? There's absolutely no parameter. There's no standardization of your skills. So the only way employer can get some idea is that if you have done some certificate. So there is some guarantee of some basic knowledge about you that differentiates your resume. So getting a call after certification is the chances of that is high. But if you ask me saying, is it mandatory to have a certification to get a job? Answer is no. Last week, I had conducted an interview with, I think last week, with Natasha, who basically became a business analyst from being an air hostess. Absolutely no connection with IT whatsoever. And she didn't do certification. So you can go and watch her interview. absolutely eye-opening. Okay, there are several ways in which you can achieve the same result. It's just that you need to plan it well. So, acquire. How do you want to? Okay, is it still breaking or it's okay now?
Okay now.
It's okay now. Okay. So, decide the approach. So, one of the things which last week she shared is that she actually shadowed some of her friends in the customer calls just to understand how the discussions are happening, how the requirements are being captured, what does the customer say. So everybody has a different approach. I'm just saying you need to decide what works for you. Then, in the same way, start working on your resume because some kind of dressing is required to be done in your resume. If you come from XYZ background and you just submit the same resume, absolutely no chance of you getting selected. Whether right or wrong, at least you need to write the relevant keywords, the relevant uh, skills in the resume that you have, at least you have the knowledge of capturing requirements. You know what is requirements gathering, you know what is UML, you know what is SRS. Because who shortlists the resume? The HR person. How much does the HR person know about business analysis? Nothing. What they are looking for, they have been told that this is what you need to look at. Does the CV contain these words? Or better still, there are now automated logic, automated systems which scans your CV and shortlist or not shortlist your resume based on the keywords. So you need to put that. And then at the parallel, as you are working on getting the skills, it takes around, I think there is a small typo, it takes around 6 to 8 weeks. So you need to earmark approximately 6 to 8 weeks to get the skills. There is no shortcut in life. Here also no shortcut. No matter what you do, it will take 6 to 8 weeks. So you can also do certification by doing a little bit more. So in 8 to 10 weeks, you can do certification plus the skills architect. So once your skills, you have acquired the skills, you have shortlisted your resume, then you start working in parallel for preparing for the interviews. Because in interview also what happens is many a times you might be knowing certain things, but you can't create the right answer in the interview. So this is quite natural. There's nothing wrong with you. Many a times, not everybody is good with framing answers. So you need to practice it so that you can form the right answers for the interview. Practice it so that you will be able to answer it in the interview naturally. Then use those learnings of answering questions for dry runs. Now, what is dry run? There are two ways in which you can do the dry run. One, you can have a mock interview with somebody who's an expert. That is one way of doing it. Number two, let's say, for example, you want to go to company A or B. Then don't apply to A and B unless you are confident that you are ready. So apply to C and D, the companies where you don't want to go. But prepare yourself by using those interviews as a drive. That's a technique which at least I used in my career. If I don't want to join company A, I will make sure that I go for an interview in that company. There's no pressure. I give answer and see myself where do I stand. Then come back, prepare, then apply to another A1 company where I don't know. Till the time I feel I'm now confident enough to face the interview of the company where I want to, or the companies. Obviously, you need to have a list of five, six companies where you want to go. There are a lot of companies which are pretty good in the industry. You can choose the better one. This trick works pretty well. Okay. So then these are the six steps which you should be using to prepare yourself to become a business owner. It's an approach which is proven and it has worked for many people, whether you come from a travel background or sales background, operations background, or even cabin crew or air hostess background. Okay. There's another case which people have is that they have a gap, mostly females. So you taken a break because of the family reasons. You decided to take a break. Now you want to come back to the industry. What will you do? So fortunately, the good thing is that many of the companies in India and abroad, for especially in India, I know TCS, JP Morgan, Capgemini, there are several companies who have created specific programs for females who had a break, and even males. Some of them are also, I think, Capgemini is both male female. I'm not sure, but TCS has specifically female oriented program where they encourage people who have even more than 3 years of gap, up to 10 years or 12 years gap. So you can see what kind of requirements they have and you can apply. Okay. So there are several things where you can look for becoming a business analyst. Now there are several free resources which are available on TechCanner's website. One is this business analysis fundamentals book, which you can look at, which is available at this URL. There are also a lot of articles in our blog, business analyst blog, and you can get a lot of resources about business analysis. A lot of tutorials are there. Also, we have a YouTube channel where there are a lot of videos related to business analysis skills at different levels. There are hundreds of videos available here. And article wise also, there are hundreds of articles. You can read those. And we also conduct, like you are attending right now, one of the events, which we generally have 2 to 3 events per month. Okay, so you can attend those where we cover multiple topics. All right. So this is what I wanted to share in terms of the approach to become a business analyst, the steps. Why do you or why should you consider becoming a business analyst? Because it's a good career choice. Just to tell you another aspect, a couple of months, 2 3 months back actually, I conducted a training for a company called Michelin. Some of you must have heard about Michelin, which is one of the largest manufacturer of high-end tires in the world. They have Michelin racing cars and tires and all of that. Now, that was an entry-level business analyst program. What was interesting in that training is that apart from people coming from non-IT, IT background, they had supply chain experts, developers. There were four, I think 3 or 4 data scientists who were attending that program. So I asked them why you are attending this program. They said, we know machine learning, we know everything. We can develop all kinds of algorithms. But company has said that you have not been exposed to gathering requirements because ultimately, whatever algorithms you are going to develop, who is the target? The customer. You are not developing it for yourself. You are developing it because a customer wants to achieve something or solve a problem. That part you must learn because ultimately that is what is more important compared to everything else. That also tells you that in data science projects, business analysts are equally important as they are in non-data science. But to become a business analyst in a data science project, what do you need to learn? You need to learn certain skills related to data. What is data analytics? What is data science? What is Tableau? Or what is machine learning? Those kind of things also you need to learn. You don't need to learn Python. You don't need to learn R, but you need to learn the basics of certain things and some tools so that you can create those visual models. Okay. All right. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Now I'll take up questions. Okay. So Anand has a question. Yeah. So it depends on the contract, Anand, actually. If your contract, see, there are different types of contracts. Okay. So some contracts have very severe terms in terms of delays. Okay. So if that is so, then there will be penalty. There are penalty clauses if you miss the deadline or if you delayed by X number of days and so on. So it is purely dependent on the contract. If the term says this is what it is, then that will be enforced. But not every contract are that severe on the deadlines because you see, most of the projects nowadays, more than 90%, are not done in a waterfall way. I mean, they're more like agile. So there are some flexibility in terms of the changing requirements also. So it's both ways, right? Customer can give you requirements uh, which they had not given earlier. So they expect you to be little flexible. So obviously, it works both ways. So you also expect the customer to be flexible on certain things. How to participate, volunteer in context of business analyst through a different volunteering. I don't think there is any platform available. You have to talk to some of your friends who are working as business analysts and ride on with them because everything right now is working from home. You have good opportunity to ride along with them, join in that call somehow, and listen to what is happening in the meeting. Okay, because if somebody is going to the office and then talking to customer, you possibly can't participate. It becomes difficult. Right now, it's all possible. Saurav is asking, I want to know the difference between BA versus OA. See, ultimately, business analyst is a professional who is responsible for solving the customer problems. So whether you are into operations, you are into finance, you are into IT projects, or anywhere else, you are solving problems. Okay. So you'll see that all the analysts will have some very common traits. And that's why you're finding that BA and OA have something which is common. As a developer, how do you can also unmute yourself and ask questions. Hemant, as a developer, how do you frame a resume for an entry level? So the key aspects of a resume is the same. You have to write down certain things which are essential skills for a business analyst, which I showed you. Like you need to show if you have written requirements. You have developed requirements. You have created UML diagrams. You have created specification. You understand what is waterfall, what is agile. So if you are a developer, you understand a lot of things, right? And you can pretty well say that you come from a development background. There is nothing wrong with that because that's a plus point. That's not a negative point. And you can add, if let's say for example, you in some cases you have talked to somebody to get the requirement, that you can slightly tweak to show that you have discussed with the customer to gather requirement. You are not lying, but you are just slightly tweaking your resume to represent something which is related to business analysis. Madhu is saying I'm a developer and I want to get into BA and MIM. Yeah, so that's where you need to learn certain skills. See, for a data, and just like let's say when you are developing a software, there is a process, right? You plan, you gather requirements, you document requirements, then design, then development, then testing, and then UAT. Same way, data analytics projects have a life cycle, right? And that life cycle includes understanding the requirement. But then the problem in data science is that the understanding of the requirements itself is tricky. Right? So you need certain visualization skills to understand what is the problem. Or you need to create some kind of model to understand that. So you need to learn data analytics. Okay. So it's not about AI ML. AI ML come much later because that is the solution part, right? Here you need to understand what is the problem. So you need to learn problem solving skills. How do we solve a problem? How do you define what does the customer want? Okay. So data analytics lifecycle, data analytics related skills you need to earn, including uh, one of the data visualization tools. Maybe Tableau, maybe Power BI, maybe ClickView. There are multiple such tools. AI ML come much later, so you don't focus on this. That's more like development aspect, not the requirements aspect. Aditya is asking, what about if we have an experience in healthcare industry? Yeah, that's good actually. So you are selling to the customer. So even if you're not selling the software, you still are talking to the customer. One of the key skills which you must have or you will have is dealing with customers, right? So you have whatever years of experience you have, that you can show as an highlight that you have been dealing with customer. You talk to the customer to understand what do they want, and then you coordinate with the backend team to get the right product or solution for the customer. That is what a business analyst does in IT industry also, right? So it's just that you need to write it in a way that it relates to BA skills. Riaz is asking, can a network engineer can work? See, anyone can work as a business analyst. Only thing is that you need to learn those skills. Whatever skills you don't have, you need to learn. Okay. There is no restriction as to what should be the background of the professional who wants to become a business analyst. There is no restriction or strict requirement. Okay. So if you are a network engineer, of course you can become a business analyst. Just see what you know and what you don't know, and then prepare yourself. Okay. So Madhu says she has already worked in Power. That's pretty good. So Power BI or any of the visualization skills, what it does is it helps in defining the problem. So in a data science project, what happens is the problem is defined in relation to the data. Like somebody says, we are not able to understand why the sales in the three states is not picking up, whereas in the other states is pretty good. This is not a problem where software needs to be developed. It's the problem where data has to be understood, right? So you define the problem in terms of data. So there you need to kind of clean the data which is to be understood. Where Power BI, so there is when you plot the data, right? Let's just think about a line chart. You create a line, right? And you plot all the points. You'll see that one point is very far away from the line on the top and one very on the bottom. Those are known as out of the context data or outliers. So you remove them because that's not going to help. So visualization helps in looking at the data and saying, okay, what is relevant for me? So I'll keep only that data and then define the problem based on that. That's how visualization tool helps. Ranjini says, how do we go for ECBS certification? Prepare parallel. Yes, you should. The best way to do it is prepare with the courses and target that you're going to appear for the test in 7 to 9 weeks time. By the time you should be able to finish Babok couple of times, take all the mock tests and then go for this. What are the career progression goals after BA? There are several things which you can do. Okay, so BAs have pretty wide variety of options available. Let me. This is my favorite tool, Jamboard. So what happens is, let's say you start as a BA. Okay, so you become a senior BA. So you start managing maybe a team of business analysts. So you are like coming here to the period that you have now in the range of 5 to 10 years of experience. Then what's next? In between, you can possibly learn some more skills to get to this point. This which could be becoming an agile business analyst and so on. So on. From here, you can become a project manager. Many people move from being a business analyst to a project manager, which is a very natural transition. So from 10 to 15 or 10 to 18 years, you remain a PM, senior PM, and so on. So on. And you can become an operations head or delivery head, even go up to chief operating officer. The second path is to enter the field of data analytics or data science. Still, you are going forward with the business analyst thing, but here the focus of yours becomes slightly different because you are now dealing with more data, and then you can again go and merge here. Okay, so that is kind of two alternative ways to reach and become a project manager. So this is more like a management stream. Now the third prominent path is where you are getting into becoming a subject matter expert. This is a core business analysis part. Now, subject matter experts can be two types. One, domain subject matter expert, known as domain SMEs, or you can become a product SME. Like, for example, you become a business analyst in Salesforce and you master Salesforce. So, you become a Salesforce subject matter expert, or you become a subject matter expert in SAP, for example, SAP, the ERP product, and you become an ERP SME. Very, very lucrative area again. Or you become a domain subject matter expert, meaning you start working on banking, you start working on insurance, investment banking, risk management, payments, and you work for 5 to 10 years to become an expert in that domain. So you can work on multiple products. So domain is more horizontal skill, meaning you can work on one project, two projects, three projects. For example, if you are a banking subject matter expert, you can work on FlexCube, Pinnacle, MySys. There are several products, right? You can work on all of them. Or you can become a FlexCube subject matter expert. Both of these things are pretty valid. Here, the only thing which you need to be careful when you're choosing a product is that product should be such that it has a market. You can't go to a product which only has 10 customers. That's not going to help. You need to catch up with a larger, more popular product. Then you will have a good life here. That's also, these are all very promising careers, well paid job, very
Abhishek, I
respected
want
job. Because
to know.
you see, once you become an SME, hold on, wait. Once you
Yeah,
become one of
sure.
them, then what happens? You have spent many years to gain that expertise. It's very difficult for anyone to come and replace you. Nobody can replace you. So easy. So these are very, very promising career options. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I just want to know. I mean, I am a developer. So how exactly do I practice requirements elicitation and documentation like SRS and the visual modeling that you were talking about?
You can in fact do it quite easily now because your team will have business analysts, right?
Yeah,
You're
we do.
working in a software company,
Yeah.
so you will have somebody, whether your project or somebody else's project. You'll have to request them to allow you to at least listen to what is happening there, how they are working. They are ultimately your colleagues. Nobody is going to give you a chance. You have to take it. Okay? So you can you will have better access to these people. People who are coming from a completely non-IT background, they will find it a little difficult to get access to business analysts and those kind of things. For you, it should be easier, depending on, of course, how convincing you are in convincing your colleagues to allow you to listen to what they're doing or seeing what they're doing. Okay, so but to practice that, you have to you can use this path very easily. Or if you don't have that access, you can still do one thing. You're working on a project, right? You learn what is how to make use cases. You learn how to create, how to write user stories. You learn how to create process diagrams and make it for your own project, the modules which you are working on as a developer. And then request maybe a business analyst or a project manager to have a look at it. Have you done it right? That is another way to handle it. They asked as a question, what is the difference between pre-sales and BA? Pre-sales basically assists sales team in developing the proposals and all and developing the solution. Yeah, so Aditya, BA and sales role are very different, but ultimately, uh, in sales, you are selling a solution to a customer, right? And that solution is a product, but because the customer has a requirement or a need. In software, a business analyst is going to coordinate the development of a software because customer has a requirement and that requirement is going to be fulfilled by developing a software, right? It's more or less the same thing, except that the thing which you are using to address the problem is completely different. In that case, you have an equipment. In this case, it is a software. So what you have to learn, you have to forget about equipment. You have to learn how to develop a software and how does the software development, maintenance process works. But you have to keep your skill of understanding the customer requirements intact. BA is data analytics, Vishal.
Hello. Middle path, even the data analyst, even that is an option after becoming a BA.
Yeah, so becoming a BA in data analytics project is one of the options. But you can also, if you like programming, you can get into complete data science. That's a completely transitioning from BA career to some different, very different. This was
Yeah,
basically
because
saying in a data analytics project, you can work as a business analyst.
oh, okay, okay.
Okay.
When okay.
Here it was a very specific area. BA role to solutions architect. Solution architect is again a very tech role. Uh, you can become a solution architect, but I think that's not a very kind of a smooth path. And because once you become an expert, I mean, a senior business analyst, from there moving into a completely tech role is very difficult. Solution architects are people who have 10 to 15 years of development experience. So that is not something which is the correct way of getting into. However, there is a related role called business architect. Okay, I'm not going to discuss that, but that is something which is coming up. So many BAs are becoming something called a business architect. The clarity in terms of the role is limited. They are also called business consultant. They are also called business architects. But there is a serious lack of clarity on what does a business architect do, whether it's a solution architect or it's a different role than solution architect. So, okay, great. All right. So I think I have answered all the questions. Yeah, yeah. BA can be in any domain. So this is where the domain SME ultimately, if you start as a BA in let's say finance domain, a banking domain, or insurance domain, with multiple projects over the period of years, you become an expert in that particular domain. Okay, that's how it works. Yeah, it will be uploaded on YouTube in a couple of days' time. All right. Thank you, everyone. So we'll stop here. Thanks all for attending the event. Thank you so much. Starting salary depends, but it's a wide range, 3 lakhs to 5 lakhs in India. US dollars wise, it again, it can be very much in the range of 70,000 plus.
Sir, but if we have an experience in sales industry, as I've said, healthcare, so if we are switching to an this BA role, what we should expect a salary then for a hike?
See, you cannot say that I am coming from uh, X background with X amount of
Okay.
salary, and
Okay.
I'm transitioning my career from sales to business analyst. Give me X plus 10%. That is not
Hmm.
going to happen. because you are coming from an unrelated field. It's your requirement to transition your career. IT industry is taking you as a business analyst because it's open to that opportunity. So
Okay.
sometimes I have no idea about what is your salary, what is your years of experience. But without knowing that, I'm giving a general answer is that you should not be looking at it this, because what happens in IT industry is that it covers up the gap very fast. So let's say for example, today you are getting X, and let's say even if you join at X minus 20%, for example, okay, within 3 to 4 years, you can cover that up gap and you can become X plus 20%. Because the growth opportunities, depending on how you transition, how you make certain moves, it can grow very fast. It's unlike with any other industry. Okay. So
Right.
don't look at it saying that I am going to have a sequential growth. That's not you should expect. That's a uh, wrong way of looking at transition.
Okay.
Reporting software is only required if you are going to work on a, yeah, in some cases you may. In some cases you may have to look at reporting, because you see, if you are working, if you are in US, for example, or UK or countries where customers are located, right? For example, if you're working in a country where offshore projects are being handled, so your customer interaction will be limited. But if you're work, let's say for example, if you're in US, there are several specific areas of BA which is in demand. For example, some people are working as UAT coordinators. Some people are working as transition managers. Some people are working as reporting business analysts. Okay, these are specific areas of business analysis, because large projects UAT is being conducted. So they need a coordinator to get that UAT done properly. So they need a UAT manager, UAT analyst, whatever they call it. Okay. So positions differ based on where you are located. So there are positions which says reporting business analyst. That could be related to W, Power BI, those kind of things. Vishal, if you have MBA degree, you might get some advantage, of course. But again, as I was answering, I think uh, Aditya. So don't consider this as a linear progression in the short term, and don't worry about even if you it doesn't happen that. Don't get disheartened. IT industry as of now, and possibly for next few years, the growth in the industry is very high. Still, this industry is growing at 10 to 12% overall, which is very, very good growth considering the size of the industry. Okay, some of these sectors are growing even faster, 20%, 25%. So, and if you make the right moves, you can really cover up all that gaps which you may have lost because of your transition. Okay, so look at it just one step in your transitioning process. Over a period of 5-10 years, you'll be able to cover it up. Absolutely no problem. Uh, See, age is a factor, especially if you're saying if you're 60. Uh, no, it's not a difficult question. It's basically, I can give you answer right away. See, if you were in India, I would have said absolutely no chance, because in India or in many countries, we are not open to old age people working. We don't feel that they're productive. Unfortunately, it's true. It's not a kind of a uh, good thing to have, but that's true. That happens. US, uh, to an extent, it is open to people working, but depends which kind of company you are in and whether that company feels that this age is a barrier. You're already working. I think you're still working, right? If you're still working, that means not right now, but you're working. Okay, till some time back you're working. That means there is an acceptance of you working. And I know many people, a lot of my seniors who are even older than you, they picked up one area of work, okay, and they're working in that for 30 years. Many people till few years back were working in COBOL, very old programming language, still working in COBOL, and there were jobs available. Okay, so acceptance in US is better compared to other countries. Uh, but to start a career in a completely different field, you'll have to contact me separately because I'm not sure about. I don't want to guide you just like this. Okay, I'll have to check on this. Okay, this is a special case, so you can write to me. Uh, Let me give you. Anybody who wants to know, I'm just giving you a Tech Canvas ID. Just write to me. I will try to figure out in your case. Because right now I can't answer this question, but I'll check.
Okay, Abhishek, I have a question here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an experience in the testing and I have 7 years experience and now I have a gap of 3 years. And I am, is it okay to, I have done CCBA certification preparing for CBAP. Is it okay to approach companies for, just the company HRs to offer me any kind of intern jobs without expecting a pay for 3 months initially?
No,
Because I want to get back.
you should not do that. Because I'll tell you what happens is, uh, see, the moment you start saying that you want to work as an intern and all, there will
Yeah,
be doubts about your ability. People don't see it
okay.
as a fresher requesting for internship is okay. But if a person with professional experience and some certification, if you are asking for internship, people see it as your negative. Don't do that. Okay,
Okay,
that's what I
because
was
if I
saying.
apply for experience jobs as BA, I don't get job calls. I get calls only for testing roles.
Hmm.
But I do not get any business BA calls.
But you have done CCBS certification, right?
Yes, but I
Okay.
don't know to use this. I've never used these tools, Tableau, data visualization. You were talking about UML diagrams. I've not created.
Oh, acha. Okay. So no, those things. That's why the skills gap part which I mentioned, that you have to learn because ultimately in the interview they will ask you. In the interview they
So
will
that
ask
I
you.
can write in the CV about all these things.
Yeah, if you can answer them, so at least write it because without writing it, nobody's going to
It
give
won't
you a
get.
call. Yeah, nobody's
Yeah,
going to give. You have to write it and start studying. If you can pick it up, you have already picked up Babok, which is a tough topic to pick up.
yeah,
So try and spend some time for a few weeks, learn these things, okay, and mention it in your CV because without that, it's absolutely sure you're not going to get a call.
yeah.
See what will happen. I'll tell you. That's what I was telling you about Natasha. She mentioned that she has appeared for 300 interviews
Yeah.
before she was applied for 300. You might be a, I think you attended that
Yeah, yeah, I
interview.
had attended that. Yeah.
So see the persistence. You have to persist. Don't worry about failures. Just keep trying. What will
Okay.
happen? They will reject you. Okay. At least you start getting call. You will start understanding what are they asking. That will help you in even preparation.
Okay.
Okay. So don't worry about the rejection. That's absolutely okay to get rejected.
No, the barrier I'm facing is that I'm not getting any calls.
So you need to
Like the
write those
CV
skills.
is not getting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to modify your CV. I think that is something which is preventing the call.
Okay.
All right. So thank you everyone, and we'll stop here. See you then. Bye bye.